Thomas Massie walked up to the podium holding 4 documents. He came to court not to play games. Kentucky Republican, engineering background, detail obsessed. And you could tell from the first second, he wasn't there to chat with FBI Director Patel. He was there to corner him. Before we get into this, quick thing, if you're sick of the spin and you want more breakdowns like this where we actually read the receipts, jump in with us, hit subscribe, and stay in this fight, because this story is not going away. Massie looks straight at Patel and says, there are 4 documents I want to put on the record. Not 1, 4. And every single one points in the same direction. Document 1, an article laying out how Jeffrey Epstein operated in plain sight for 6 years. Inside it, a quote tied to Alexander Acosta, Secretary of Labor under the Trump administration and the prosecutor in the Epstein case. And the quote is explosive. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave him alone. Read that again. Belonged to intelligence. Leave him alone. That's not a rumor. That's a statement being entered into the record. Document 2, warnings about Epstein's protectors and alleged CIA connections. Document 3 from Fox Digital, the headline says Epstein's private calendar showed meetings with an Obama administration official and the CIA chief. Document 4, a Wall Street Journal article highlighting Ehud Barak's 36 meetings with Jeffrey Epstein. Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel and former head of Israeli military intelligence, and Massie points out Barak may have still been tied to that world during the time of those meetings. So Massie lays it out clean. 4 documents, 4 arrows, pointing to the same target, intelligence connections. He looks at Patel and basically says, come on, coincidence or a pattern? And right when Massie is building momentum, boom, another representative jumps in. Maryland. He submits another document, Judge Engelmeyer's August decision, and it hits like a hammer because it says the government has 100,000 pages of Epstein files. 100,000 pages. Let that sink in. The FBI has a 100,000-page Epstein file, and the public has seen what? Scraps. A few crumbs, enough to calm people down, not enough to expose anyone. Massie takes the floor again and goes right at Patel. He says, Director Patel, I watched your Senate hearing yesterday. When Senator Kennedy asked you about who Epstein sold these women to, other than himself, your answer was, there is no credible information that he sold them to anyone else. Patel nods like that's the end of it. Then Patel tries the legal shield. He says the case files were limited by search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and the non-prosecution agreement blocked future investigations. And Massie stops him right there, because here's the part people keep forgetting. Massie says those restrictions only apply to the Southern District of Florida, not New York, not the Southern District of New York where the 2019 sex trafficking indictment was filed. So Massie is basically saying, don't hide behind Florida. New York happened. New York had files. New York had interviews, and then he brings up FD 302s, that's FBI interview paperwork. When agents sit down with someone, those forms are the official record of what was said. Not gossip, not some blog post, FBI documents, and Massie hits the core of this whole thing. He says victims who worked with the FBI say the Bureau has documents FD 302s that name at least 20 men. 20 men allegedly tied to victim statements, meaning the victims gave names, the FBI wrote them down, the FBI has the list. Massie points out some victims were minors, including Virginia Roberts Giuffre, rest in peace, and then he starts describing what's on that list. Not random nobody names. He says it includes a Hollywood producer worth hundreds of millions, a royal prince, someone big in the music industry, a major banker, a top government official, a former high-profile politician, the owner of a car company in Italy, a rock star, a magician, and at least 6 billionaires, including one from Canada. And Massie drops one specific name, Jeff Staley, the CEO of Barclays Bank. Then he says it flat out. We know these people are in the FBI files, the files you control. I don't know exactly who they all are, but the FBI does. Now, Massie asks the question, every normal person is screaming at their screen. Have you opened investigations into any of these people? And have you seen these FD 302s? Because if you've got 20 names in FBI documents, you don't get to shrug. You don't get to play dumb. You don't get to say, well, that's complicated. Patel's answer sounds like the usual bureaucratic fog machine. He says he told agents to review all Epstein files and bring forward credible information. He says they're working with Congress to disclose info and also to pursue investigations based on credible leads. Then Patel says this line is the whole problem. I have not been presented with any new material that would initiate a new indictment. Hold on. 20 names. FD 302s, victims naming people. And Patel says no new material. So what are those FD 302s then? Decorative paperwork, just something to file away while predators walk free? Massie pushes back. He asks the question that matters. Is there a gap here, or are you saying the victims aren't credible? Because that's what this comes down to. Either the FBI lost the trail, or they're calling the victims liars without saying it out loud. Massie asks if the FD 302s included reliable statements that could support probable cause. Patel tries to pass the blame uphill. He says it's not his claim. He says 2 different U.S. attorney offices across 3 administrations, Obama, Trump, Biden, reviewed the same material and didn't bring new indictments. And reviewed doesn't mean acted. Looked at it doesn't mean did justice. You can review something for 10 years and still do nothing. That's not accountability. That's delay. Massie keeps pressing, are the FD 302s in FBI custody? Patel says yes. Massie asks, did you personally review them? And Patel says, personally, no. Let that land. The FBI director is sitting there telling the country no credible info, while admitting he hasn't personally read the interview documents where victims named people. That's not leadership. That's outsourcing responsibility. Massie nails him on it. How can you claim no names were in front of the Senate if you didn't even personally review the records? Patel answers, I provided a name today. Then he pivots into the standard line, the DOJ and FBI don't disclose victim names, and they don't disclose unreliable information. But here's the problem. We're not asking for victim names. We're asking why the accused names named by victims in official interviews aren't being acted on. So Massie changes angles. He brings up the Attorney General's White House event, the one where they sat down with social media influencers and walked them through the Epstein folders like it was some kind of PR rollout. Massie asks Patel if he was there. Patel says yes. So Massie asks the obvious, and it's brutal. If you'll meet with influencers, people who can cash in on these victims' pain, will you meet with the victims? Patel says the FBI will talk to anyone with new information. Massie asks again, you personally? Patel dodges. He says the FBI professionals handling the cases will meet with them. He does not commit to meeting the victims himself. And that's the optics nightmare right there. Influencers get a White House moment. Victims can't get a straight yes for a face-to-face with the director. Tell me what you think. Is that normal? Or is that the system protecting itself? Drop a comment, because I want to know if you think this is incompetence or something worse. Massie brings up another ugly detail. He asks about the document release, the one that happened the same day Massie submitted his request to force disclosure. Patel says he doesn't know what day it was. Massie says the documents were announced that day, and because they rushed it, victim names went out unredacted. That's not a mistake you just wave away. These victims already went through hell, and then their names get pushed out because somebody was in a hurry? So Massie asks, why the rush and why that day? Now Massie goes to the darkest part, the intelligence angle. He asks Patel, did you investigate CIA connections? Have you seen a CIA file on Epstein? And if you wanted to see it, would the CIA even show it to you? Because this isn't coming from nowhere. Acosta's quote, Epstein belonged to intelligence, warnings about CIA connections, Epstein's calendar meeting with the CIA chief, and the Wall Street Journal piece, 36 meetings with Ehud Barak. That's not one little rumor. That's a trail. Patel answers carefully. He says he can speak for the FBI, and calling it a CIA file is an assumption. He says he reviewed everything provided interagency, then clarifies it was the FBI reviewing it, not him personally. Massie asks again, would you look at a CIA file if it exists? Patel says the FBI will look at any new leads, but Massie asks the real question, will you look at the CIA file? And Patel still doesn't answer straight. He doesn't say he requested it. He doesn't say it exists. He doesn't say he wants it. Just more fog. Then Massie asks 2 final questions outside Epstein. January 6th pipe bomb investigation. Patel says it's ongoing and they made progress. Las Vegas shooter motive. Patel says he'll have to get back to him. Las Vegas, 2017, 60 dead, hundreds injured. The bloodiest mass shooting in American history. and the motive is still a get back to you? Come on. So what did we learn from this whole exchange? One, the FBI has 100,000 pages on Epstein, and we've seen a tiny fraction. Two, victims gave at least 20 names to the FBI in FD302s. Three, Patel has not personally reviewed those FD302s. Four, three administrations reviewed the case, Obama, Trump, Biden, and nobody brought new charges. Five, influencers got meetings and a White House event. Patel wouldn't commit to meeting victims in person. Six, because of a rushed release, victim names were published without redaction, and the victims are furious. Seven, the intelligence connection claims are strong, but Patel would not clearly say he requested or reviewed any CIA file. Now go back to Massie's 4 documents, because that's the spine of this whole takedown. Acosta, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence, warnings about CIA ties. Epstein's calendar, meetings with an Obama administration official and the CIA chief. Wall Street Journal, 36 meetings with Ehud Barak. Put it together and it paints a picture that should terrify any honest person. Epstein wasn't treated like a normal criminal. He was handled, protected, managed. And the biggest question is still sitting there like a loaded gun. If the FBI has 20 names from victims, why are those names still locked away? A Hollywood producer worth hundreds of millions, who? A royal prince, who? A major music figure, who? A powerful banker, who? A top government official, who? A former high-profile politician, who? 6 billionaires, who? The answers are inside those files, and we're being told not credible. Based on what? Because 3 administrations reviewed it? That's not justice. That's a shield. Patel used to say no names in front of the Senate. Today he says, I gave a name today. So which is it? And if there's a CIA angle, why does the FBI director sound like he's tiptoeing around it? These cases are not closed. Not even close. There are 100,000 pages. There are 20 names, and the victims are still waiting. So here's the rally point. Don't let this get buried again. Share this. Send it to somebody who still thinks the system always tells the truth, and stay loud, because it's the only thing that makes these people move is public pressure.